Whether at home or work, life is about relationships. Welcome to Small Change, Big Dividends with your host, Branch Isole. Small Change, Big Dividends shares steps, tools, and tips for personal career and spiritual growth. So please welcome the host of Small Change, Big Dividends, Branch Isole.
If you're familiar with the world of podcasting and shows that host life coaches or transformation gurus, you've probably heard the term life-work balance. But what does this mean? I have a home, I have a career, both of which keep me constantly juggling relationships, issues, opportunities, successes, and failures. One problem for many today is their life-work balance is out of balance. How much time in your day do you have for you, just for you, without being responsible for others, at home, at work? Not much, right? How much time in your day is free from a task, free from a demand, an errand, or a chore? A window of time without commitment to family, work, fellowship, community, or social group. Is your life a blur? Since we can't create more time, is it possible to have more time? The answer is yes, if you have a framework for success. Today, I'm going to share a 14-point framework you can use to successfully stop juggling unexpected demands or commitments of your time. A framework you can use to handle the people, activities, issues, or problems that often sideline your dreams, your goals, and your ambitions. Coming to you from deep in the forest, near the banks of the Ouachita River, you're listening to Small Changes, Big Dividends on the Bold Brave Media Talk Global Network. I'm your host, Branch Isole, and you are my featured guest. Small Changes, Big Dividend is a show where your questions are part of the program. So if you have a question, email it to my website, branchisole.com. And thanks for joining me today for this week's episode, 14-Point Framework for Success. This is the fourth and final show in our series, Building Healthy Relationships. On Small Changes, Big Dividends, you're invited to experience the unfolding of your future life story, your Life 101A. Each week, I share mana'o with listeners around the world. On Small Changes, Big Dividends, we talk about personal, career, and spiritual Christianity essentials for growth-filled living. Today, I'm going to share small changes that can pay big dividends in your relationships and your life. Because whether you're at home or at work, life is about relationships. But it's healthy relationships that encourage and embrace growth. If you remember our previous shows in the Health Relationship series, our first show talked about a stop, think, respond process. In episode 2, we learned the 7 steps of relationship repair. And last week, we added the 12 life lessons that we all experience. This week, we're erecting a framework of 14 awareness points you can draw from for success in any situation at home or work. You know, as humans, we are creatures of habit. We learn aspects, elements, and processes which we hone, adjust, manipulate, or just plain practice until they work for us. And when we experience success, we continue to use those templates time and again in every situation with expectations that we will again be successful. Today, the next chapter in your unfolding story will contain these 14 points of internal navigation for daily interactions. On our previous show, I shared the 12 life lessons we all grapple with. Well, today, I'm going to give you the keys to managing those 12. Our framework for success contains 3 distinct sets, totaling 14 awareness steps. So get ready to put these to use immediately after hearing today's episode. With this framework, we'll identify the 5 motivations behind every decision, the 5 foundational pillars of healthy relationships, and the 4 blockchain elements for success in any interaction. So let's get started. Believe it or not, throughout your day, every day, while interacting with family, friends, business associates or clients, even new acquaintances, every decision you make is predicated on one or more of these 5 motivations: need, want, status, love, or fear of loss. Let me repeat those: need, want, status, love, or fear of loss. For thousands of years, most of humanity was concerned with only 2: need and fear of loss. The need for food, the need for shelter, the need for clothing. Needed essentials to survive, and fear of loss from danger or death. With the advent of larger communities, the other 3, want, status, and love, established a presence among mankind's coveted desires. If you examine every option, every choice, every decision in your daily life, you'll find that every action you take is grounded in one or more of these 5. As a group, humans, like other animal species, normally operate within certain bounds and behaviors. We are all creatures of habit. The primary difference between us and other species is our brain's ability to quickly analyze, rationalize, or think critically about our options. Now, with technology literally at our fingertips, each of us has access to the world's knowledge, systems, processes, and creative imaginations. We live in a time like no other in the history of humanity. So, how can our days be so full of stress, struggle, and conflict? Why is this so? Because many of us fail to identify or think about the motivations behind our daily decisions. So, the next time you have a choice or decision confronting you, before you answer, before you respond, stop. Identify which of these 5 motives, need, want, status, love, or fear of loss, is moving your thoughts in that specific direction. Then ask yourself, why am I about to respond the way I am? What is my motivation? Which one is it? Once you've identified your motive, you can respond, answer, or act in the way that's in your best interest. Identifying the one that will lead you to the outcome you're anticipating. So let's start at the beginning with questions we ask ourselves before we respond. Need. Must I have it? Want. Can I get it? Status. Will it move my life forward in a way I desire, in the time I have, and in the eyes of others? Love. Can I share this with someone I trust and care about? And finally, fear of loss. What do I have to do to avoid pain or loss? Behind every choice, behind every decision, one or more of these five is active. The task is to quickly identify which one is best for your current situation. And then, what direction or action does it require from you to produce immediate, short term, or long term gain? So, how do we become more proficient in identifying these five? Well, you already know the answer: practice, practice, practice. We identify which one is present when we are in the stop think mode before responding. Remember, it's in this momentary pause that allows our response to be laser focused, not only in its identification, but more importantly, to provide the action most appropriate for success with that particular person, event, or circumstance. If you've ever been in or seen negotiations between two or more parties with specific opposing interests in business, commerce, political or labor relations, or committees and groups, you know not only does this process take time, there are often deliberate pauses, recesses, and timeouts to confer. You seldom see a snap or immediate decision or response. It takes time to consider before answering, and your life, your relationships are just as important, even more so. So there's nothing wrong with taking a moment's pause before answering or responding, particularly in a tense situation. It happens every day with those who understand and recognize the consequence of reacting too quickly. We're going to take our first commercial break, but when we return, we're going to look behind the veil and learn how to use our responses for more success. You're listening to Small Changes, Big Dividends on the Bold Brave Media Talk Global Network. I'm your host, Branch Isole, and we'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation.
Welcome back. You're listening to Small Changes, Big Dividends. I'm your host, Branch Isole. So let's look behind the veil of our new response or action that will guarantee more, additional, or continued success. You're probably familiar with the concept of insider trading, right? Because small changes, big dividends is about you and your success and not just about your potential income, I use the term behind the veil to let you know we're about to discuss one of life's insider information gems, or what I call Life 101A. Looking behind the veil reveals the why in a particular situation. Within every relationship or life scenario, when we know the why behind our response, we can better understand the how of what our response should be with a particular person, event, or circumstance. So, how do we engage this process? How do we make it more functionally automatic? Practice, practice, practice. If you drive, how did you learn to parallel park? Whether you drive or not, how did you learn multiplication tables? How did you learn to dance? How did you learn to cook a favorite family meal? How? Practice, practice, practice. The more we practice any skill or talent, the more proficient we can become, and the easier that task is to repeat comfortably. The more comfortable we are, the more success we enjoy. The more success we have, the greater our sense of self worth, and the more confident our self image becomes. Remember our 2 week man from episode 2? He practiced repetition of success in reducing the time between his response moment and his reconciliation moment. I had a coach in high school who said, practice doesn't make perfect, perfect practice makes perfect. People at the top of their profession, industry, or vocation know this fact intimately because winners in life don't succeed and then sit on their hands. They come to realize that staying on top is often harder than getting there because being on top means you become the object of every rival and all your competitors. So, winners at the top of their game practice until perfect, and then they practice even more to stay perfect. Now, our second set of knowledge tools for today are the 5 foundational pillars of healthy relationships. Here's what they are: love, approval, agenda, trust, and spiritual grounding. Our first relationship pillar is love, because at our core, in each of us, exists love. Love is the manner of life's essence, and therefore, everyone is capable of giving and receiving love. Love is most often exhibited through actions in greater measure and more often than by words alone. If there's one truism about love that's often missed or misunderstood, it's that love is an action word. One interesting thing about human nature is we all innately recognize the actions of love. You don't need to tell people what love looks like. Once they've experienced it, they know. Likewise, many learn from experience the actions of unloving behavior. Many people can easily identify what unloving behavior looks like because we all grew up experiencing unloving actions someplace, sometime, from someone. The actions of unloving behavior become well known and familiar to those who've experienced abusive relationships. Have you ever wondered how it is we know what it is we want? Oftentimes, the easiest way to decide what you want is to recognize what you don't want. If you have a list of desires, the fastest way to whittle down that list to the ones you perceive most important is to identify those you can live without. When you know what you don't want, you can easily eliminate those. In relationships, these are identified as red flags. Red flag behaviors are those we no longer want to experience and therefore desire to live without in our future. Knowing and eliminating abusive behaviors makes our new list of options easier to weigh one against another. When we come out of a relationship, we're usually able to recognize the behaviors or actions we disliked about a previous partner. These are often easier to identify and recall after a relationship breakup. So, when we start a new relationship, the easiest way to know what we now want or will tolerate is to know by recall what we don't want and won't tolerate from our previous relationships. This is the process of how we become more attuned to recognizing red flags in our lives and particularly in our relationships. But remember, the benefit of red flag recognition is in paying attention to them as soon as they appear. The power of red flags is not only to acknowledge them, but more importantly, to heed them. Because red flags can be benchmarks for relationship growth, but only if we recognize them, and the earlier the better. By recognizing red flag actions from past relationships, we can more easily avoid future relationship adversities. Now, our second foundational pillar in healthy relationships is approval. We all crave approval, first from our parents, then from our peers, and finally from the world at large. Approval has two sides, acceptance and rejection. Now, we all crave acceptance, and many people fear rejection until we start to master our life's 12 lessons. Because when we learn to use life's 12 lessons to our advantage, we no longer fear rejection from anyone or anything. Now, if you don't know what I'm referring to, I invite you to go back and listen to episode number 3, 12 life lessons we all experience. Here's a simple fact. No one likes to hear the word no. Why? If we're crippled by insecurities and we hear the word no, we absorb it as a personal rejection. But when we start to understand that the word no only refers to what we're offering or what we're requesting, it's not about us personally. We can hear no all day long and simply move on to the next opportunity for success. If you've ever been in sales, you've heard the adage, every no gets you closer to a yes, but only when you no longer fear rejection associated with the word no. Now, point 3 in our healthy relationship model is agenda. Understanding the importance of agenda is pivotal in separating out emotions from a decision. This is the key element most often missed in most daily lives. Because most people are unaware that everyone who comes into our life has an agenda. They want or need something from us, or they want, need, or desire us to do something for them. Now, this is not negative. This is how we all operate with each other. Each of us has a skill, a talent, or a purpose that others need, want, or desire. Agenda activities is what all this interaction and relationship building is about, fulfilling agendas. It's the person who misses this point and who feels they're being taken advantage of. They aren't. They're simply not entering into the next opportunity or the next relationship, admitting that they too have an agenda they'd like to have fulfilled. There's often a feeling of guilt that can play on the mind in not admitting to this, particularly for those still grappling with insecurities. When you know what your agenda need is, you can quickly discern if another person or persons can help you fill it or not. If it's a match, find a solution that works for both agendas. If not, smile, say thanks, and move on. When agendas match, solutions are the result. Think of these three, love, approval, and agenda, as three legs on your life's easel. Now we're going to break for a short second commercial. And when we return, we're going to look at our fourth and fifth points of our healthy relationship model. You're listening to Small Changes, Big Dividends on the Bold Brave Media Global Network. I'm your host, Branch Isole. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Welcome back. You're listening to Small Changes, Big Dividends. I'm your host, Branch Isole. Our fourth point in healthy relationships is trust. Trust is that cross piece on our easel holding up the picture of your life. Trust is the healthy relationship essential support piece, because without trust, your life's picture is never stable. And with active trust, your confidence level can always be fully functional. Every healthy relationship, whether at home or work, is built on trust. It's that simple. With trust, you have every possibility. Without trust, you'll soon discover you have nothing. Remember in episode 2 about relationship repair, abused trust was the deepest level of pain. When trust is broken, the chances of recovery are extremely difficult, if not impossible. Trust is the essential function at the heart of a healthy relationship. Now, to our final point, number 5, spiritual grounding. Although spiritual grounding is essential as part of life's endeavors, it exists for most people beneath the surface or is often ignored or missed altogether by great numbers of people throughout their daily interactions. Spiritual grounding is the all-important chain connecting your easel's back support leg to the trust cross piece that's holding up the picture of your life. People often ask me, which is the support leg? Connected to the chain and leaning back. Because all three, love, approval, and agenda, are always there, they are the three legs of your life's easel. The support leg, or the one leaning back, can be whichever one of the three, love, approval, or agenda, you're currently struggling with on any given day, with any given person, circumstance, or event. And only you know which one it is. Simply said, all five, love, approval, agenda, trust, and spiritual grounding, are necessary for balanced strength. You now have the motivations behind your thoughts and actions and a support structure for daily living. So, our final set of internal navigation points are the 4 blockchain elements for success in any situation. No matter your job, no matter your position, no matter your responsibilities at home or work, these are the 4 keys that can guide you successfully through any situation. They are stability, motion, direction, and power. Think of it like this. You're going to go buy a sailboat, and down at the dock, there are 4 identical boats available, except the first boat has no keel, so it has no stability. It's a flat bottom boat, and that makes it unstable in the water. The second boat has a keel for stability and sails for potential forward motion, but it has no reserve power. So it relies only on external push from the wind for its forward movement. And without the wind, you simply drift. The third has a keel, it has sails, and it has a rudder. So now we have stability, motion, and directional capability. We can now steer. So we can chart a course to our dreams, our goals, and our ambitions. The fourth boat has a keel, sails, rudder, and a motor for power even when there's no wind. This is the boat you want, the one with stability, motion, direction, and power. These 4 together will give you all the necessities and the capability to cruise successfully in any situation at home or work. Together, these 3 sets of pivotal points provide 14 steps or rungs on our ladder of success because they provide solid structure for daily living. Now that you know these, the 5 motivations behind every choice or decision, the 5 foundational pillars of healthy relationships, and the 4 blockchain elements of success in any situation, use them to build a solid framework for success in your relationships and in your life, both at home and at work. Now, each week I answer questions from our listeners. And this week we have a question from Jeff in North Dakota who asks, why do so many Christians act so un-Christ-like? This is a question that's asked by people across the globe, and it's been asked for the past 2,000 years. When asked about this, Mahatma Gandhi stated, I like your Christ. I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. Now, this comment has been voiced by many throughout the world over the past 2,000 years regarding their interactions with so-called self-proclaimed Christians. And while there may be different answers to this query, By examining different behaviors and responses of Christians, we see at least 4 common misunderstandings about Christians and their spiritual walk, even among Christians themselves. First, many Christians think their walk is one and done. Now, this is described in Luke 9:23. A Christian may find themselves in need, and they may ask for relief, intervention, or help from beyond their daily outreach possibilities to the Lord above. And when it arrives, many go on to believe their part is finished. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. When we ask God and God responds, that's just the first step. The challenge is then for us as receivers of His grace, His relief, or His blessings to actually emulate the thoughts, words, and examples of Christ Jesus in our now renewed daily life. It's this second part of our request, our response, that is often forgotten or ignored going forward. A second misunderstanding, particularly among many established or heavy on the telling you the scripture Christians, is they often have an interesting manner of inferring it's either their way or the highway. This is addressed in Matthew 7, verses 20 through 23. And this attitude usually and is often more evident in more Pharisaic Christians, or those who are heavy on impressing you with or emphasizing the harshness rooted in a particular scripture they parrot about your sinful behavior. They often chide recipients with Philippians 4:13 as proof of their religious righteousness, while insinuating your lack thereof. Yet they often miss or ignore what Paul has to say in the preceding 2 verses, Philippians 4:11 and 12. A third, often misunderstood fallacy is about the church. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll finish our third and fourth episode points about Christians and how they're viewed in the world.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
A third, often misunderstood fallacy is about the church and its priests, pastors, and popes as the exclusive mediators between us, the people, and God. The truth is, many Christians really don't know much about acquiring spiritual guidance, using spiritual strength, or attaining spiritual salvation. They sit in the pews and listen to clerics spew about a relationship with God, attainable only through them or the church, or occasionally through iconic saints, apostles, and disciples pictured on church walls. And of course, ultimately, it's their ecclesiastic leadership, as well as conferred assistance on elders, deacons, and the like, who know best about what the people in the pews should know. The only one they omit is Christ himself, obfuscating the fact that those sitting attentively in the pews can in fact establish, have, and practice a personal spiritual relationship with God through Christ exclusively, without the intervention of ordained clerics, priests, pastors, or popes. For it is Jesus himself who is ready to receive the new or returned believer in his divinity. And finally, the last misunderstanding most postmodern Christians have is that God's purpose is for them to benefit financially on their path for wealth and possessions through belief in him. They give God the glory, but only if and after he has blessed them financially or advanced their career pursuits. It might behoove these purpose-driven Christians to revisit Matthew 6:24 or Luke 16:13. The quintessential question for every self-proclaimed Christian is not, do I know Christ? The question is, do I emulate Christ in my actions by moral and ethical choices? The more Christ-like we choose to become, and the more Christian we will be in our own eyes and in the eyes of the world's Gandhis. I'd like to thank Jeff for his question. If you have a question, email it to my website, branchisole.com. Join me next week on Small Changes, Big Dividends, when our conversation will be the power of thought to reduce stress, struggle, and conflict in daily life. If you've ever wondered why your life seems so scattered and you want a simple way to focus on your tasks at hand, next week's show is for you. Thanks for joining me today. On Small Changes, Big Dividends, we discuss personal, career, and spiritual Christianity essentials for growth-filled living. If you know someone who could benefit from today's episode, please share it with them. If today's show has been helpful for you, please give us a rating and review. And to know more about my work, I invite you to visit my website, branchisole.com, or my YouTube channel, Branch Isole. Today's show has been sponsored by Crystal Creek Farm. If you have a business, a product, or a service you'd like to share with the world on Small Changes, Big Dividends, send your inquiry to the website. You've been listening to Small Changes, Big Dividends on the Bold Brave Talk Global Network. I'm your host, Branch Isole. Until next week, all the best.
This has been Small Change, Big Dividends. When you're ready for healthier, more successful relationships at home or work, Small Change, Big Dividends is your show. Wednesdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.